My name is Brian Hess. I work for RevBio, and I'd like to talk to you about a revolutionary orthopedic biomaterial. There are over 15 million bone surgeries in the United States per year. Unfortunately, over 30% of them end up with complications. But take a look at the pictures here. These procedures are complex. Today's standard of care requires hardware fixation devices, but often there's deficient bone. Therefore, it's hard to get good integration, and therefore, bone grafting materials are required to be added to these procedures. This leaves these procedures with long-suffering healing times that lead to these complications. So by and large, the field has remained largely unchanged for decades. RevBio is going to transform bone repair. We have invented and developed a regenerative bone adhesive biomaterial that will address these menacing problems. Our material is called tetranite, and it's been engineered to address all the clinicians' needs. As you can see here, the material is injectable for less invasive procedures. It sets up fast in a wet field environment and forms load-bearing adhesive bonds to both bone and metal. Moreover, once the material is in the body, it goes through a bone regeneration process over the course of weeks to months. If you take a look here, these are the existing materials that are out on the market today in the field of orthopedics. They're all clustered across two axes, those that are regenerative and those that have structural strength. But uniquely, none of them have the combination of both. This is where our product, tetranite, sits. The material will be first in class as a load-bearing adhesive material, but it also has regenerative potential to the body. The leading orthopedic biomaterials are shown here. None of them, as seen, has the combination of all the features that clinicians desire. Tetranite, though, solves for this. Our material is fully synthetic. It's comprised of two core materials, a calcium phosphate and a bio-inspired amino acid. This material can be produced at a low cost, and we can engineer up kits for each indication with a cost of goods commanding a gross profit margin of at least 90%. The technology is patented. We have over 8 issued patents, most of them issued to us through a licensing exclusively from Stryker. RevBio has gone on, has filed for over 12 additional patents that are pending. This helps extend the patent runway to 2037 and beyond. We are approaching 5 key markets with a total addressable market size of over $10 billion. The top 3 indications are above the shoulders. We're approaching dental indications and indications in the cranium. We are using our animal study data from these to then field products in the animal health space for early revenue. After this, we're approaching spine and extremities for fracture repair, where we're running pivotal animal studies with FDA support leading to submissions for starting human studies next year. I want to talk about our dental implant indication. For those that don't know, over 50% of adults have at least one missing tooth. But only 1% elect to get a dental implant-supported crown, and that's because of the time and cost for these procedures. But even so, the global market size for dental implants is nearly $5 billion. The reason for the hesitation for these procedures is because it goes through a staged procedure. When you have your tooth extracted, in over 70% of procedures, you have to go through a complex bone grafting process before the bone is available to then come back later and have the implant dentist drill a hole and place an implant. Our tetranite bone adhesive allows those 2 procedures to be collapsed into one. At the time of extraction, the dental implant can be placed. In our human studies, we've shown that it not only immediately stabilizes the implant, but it maintains clinically acceptable stability throughout the healing process. In our animal studies, we've shown that the material, which stabilizes the implant as shown in brown on the left, goes through a regenerative process and forms bone, all while keeping the implant stable, no motion or loss of stability. In our early human studies, here you can see this is a molar case where a molar was extracted. Now, typically, that's too big of a hole to place a dental implant, and they'd have to go through a bone grafting procedure before returning months later for the implant. With tetranite, we are able to place that implant in the same procedure, thus taking out a surgical phase. Healing has gone on. To the implant dentist, there's a real winning strategy here. When comparing today's standard of care and the treatment cost and time to the new procedure with tetranite, we remove over 50% of the cost and the time for the implant dentist. That means they can move patients through their chair and still charge the same amount of money but retain the savings. So there's a real driving mechanism for them to adopt the product. We're also expanding into other orthopedic markets. We have an FDA-approved cranial flap study, which we're about to start in the fourth quarter. This will replace metal plates and screws for procedures that involve neurosurgeons, that involve going into the cranium to repair the brain and then come back out and replace the flap. We're also looking at fracture fixation, and as I said before, are looking to start human studies next year. Our pipeline is diverse. Here you can see we look to launch products for human use over the next 3 years, while also launching our first revenue-generating product next year in the animal health space. Our team is well diversified. We have a group of engineers, clinicians, and executives, all with significant experience at prior medical device companies. We have over 30 clinical advisors, all organized into the different verticals that we're approaching, markets. Our advisory board is comprised of key opinion leaders, and all of them have been utilized in our development process with hands-on experience helping us define the user needs for each indication. Over half our investment has come from clinicians, over $10 million, which helps validate the clinical utility of this product. We produce our product and develop it at an incubator, a medical device incubator in Boston Metro called M2D2. We are producing clinical-grade product, and we are ISO 13485 certified. To date, we've raised over $40 million, of which 40% comes from non-dilutive grant funding. This has helped us fuel our different indications. We are now looking to raise $25 million to essentially accelerate our clinical development process and help us run through these clinical studies to commercialize the product across the 5 indications I talked about. In terms of an exit strategy, here's a look at the last 5 to 7 years of orthopedic biomaterials, or biomaterials in general, that have exited, on average, $400 million. What's interesting are most of these companies are all single product companies where their exit has been equivalent to their annual total addressable market size. We believe this provides a floor for how we could exit, but also thinking about us having multiple products, we could go at a multiple approaching or exceeding $1 billion. Thank you very much for today's presentation.